Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the United Front Football Podcast, episode 12. We are still going. We did take a couple of weeks off in the last month or so, but international breaks and all that, innit? It's not... I just dialed out of football for a little bit.
I was going to say, I feel like the international break curses, it's just a curse for us, because as soon as the international break, one of us either gets ill or there's loads of work commitments to pop up around the same time. So it's I think the international break just doesn't really agree with us, and we don't agree with them, so it's fine.
Yeah, and to be fair, it was crap anyways.
Yeah, I didn't. Do you know what? I didn't even register that England were playing until I went on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh, England!" It was like England 1-0 up. I was like, "Wait, what?" I didn't realize they were playing. So, but let's say the games didn't matter, so it's fine.
Yeah, it was the same for me. I kind of knew they were happening, but I didn't know what days. All I saw was I went on Twitter, everyone was angry, and then everyone was angrier. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, well.
It's like, yeah, we've already qualified, already won the group. Who cares? Do you know what I mean? It literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is. We'll see how it goes come at the end of the season. Well, we'll talk about some proper football, shall we? I say proper football. It was Burnley v West Ham. A 2-1, an emphatic win away at Turf Moor. To be fair, right, I think previous seasons, so say this is the Burnley of 3 or 4 years ago, going away to Turf Moor and getting a 2-1 win, great
result,
because it's an hard place to go, really tough, get a couple of goals. This isn't that same Burnley, though, is it? I know you've got a few points to make on it, so I'll open the floor out to yourself a little bit.
So it's not the same Burnley; it's very much the same old West Ham, though. I'll say this, I'll get this out of the way now. I don't want Burnley fans to think I'm being disrespectful or anything like that. I feel like the majority of them have got sensible hats on, probably agree. They're doomed, because any other, I genuinely believe any other team that would have played us the weekend and we played the way we did, I think would have beaten us. So I include Luton in that, and I include Sheffield United in that. We were garbage for 86 minutes of that game, and Burnley were, I think I said to my mates, the worst part is Burnley weren't even that good. They just about deserved to be ahead, mainly because they should have had a penalty in the first half that wasn't given, and then I think the ref gave him a soft one in the second half, because I think he obviously realised that he cocks up so much. But we just didn't have anything. Didn't have anything going forwards, couldn't create anything. They put 2 or 3 people on Kudus, and then we obviously hadn't planned for that and had no idea what to do. Mental, right?
They're marking our good player. What do we do?
Yeah, but it's crazy, right? There's literally, for most of the game, he has about 2 or 3 players on him, which you think would mean that there would be a spare man or at least some space elsewhere on the pitch. But we decided to play without a midfield for some reason. And then you've got the mannequin Ings playing up front. It's obviously not going to go well for you. But we got the job done, thankfully, because Kudus is a bit of a genius, and the 2 moments he was able to get on the ball and do something. I mean, he was pretty quiet for most of the game, but the second goal, the cross is pinpoint, perfect on Souček's foot. But what he does for the first goal, he basically turns into Lionel Messi for 50 seconds. There's about 4 Burnley players around him and just goes, "I'll sod this," and just dribbles past all of them.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
Basically, yeah. I saw a guy on Twitter who's basically being Kudus just looked at the clock and went, "No, this is Burnley. What are we doing? I'll do it myself." But yeah, it's just more of the same, really. I don't think we did a podcast after the Forest. Yeah, because we played Forest just before we broke off international break. Very similar story, 1-3-2, but we weren't great throughout most of it. And I think it's that thing of we don't really go into games now with a game plan. It's sort of we just rely on, we'll go into it thinking, right, let's just keep it tight for as long as possible and hope that James Ward-Prowse will whip a set corner in to find a centre back, or Thomas Souček will just get his head on something in the 90th minute, or Paqueta will do something. You know what I mean? We're very much a team relying on moments of brilliance rather than any any actual tactical play or game plan or anything like that. But I will say, just to sort of round off very quickly, a massive shout out to Divine Mabama, who the goal wasn't credited to him, because I think it has gone down as I think he's even admitted it was an own goal.
Yeah.
But the fan base has been crying out for him to get a chance this season, and I think the frustration is, we're not saying he should be starting every single week, because obviously, Antonio's not been great, but Bowen's played up front and done all right, and you've got other options and stuff. But the frustration definitely comes when it's Danny Ings is only getting in ahead of him because he's on 100 grand a week, and that's the only reason why he's getting picked. This kid's come for our academy in the last year of his contract, been scoring loads of goals in on 21s, deserves a chance. And I thought he played for half hour. I thought he made so much difference just in terms of energy, pressing from the front, creating, like, dragging defenders out and opening up space like that. We got a game midweek on Thursday against, like, the worst team in our group. He absolutely has to start that one for me to really, give Moyes something to think about in terms of his selection in the future.
Yeah, as memory serves, he was really good for you guys in the Youth Cup as well, wasn't he?
Yeah,
it was massive. But like players like that, like, sometimes you just need to blood him in, and like you say, it's not like any of the other actual strikers are pulling up trees, is it? So give him a run. Why not? Like, maybe it'll show that there is a space to improve in January, or maybe it'll take his chance. You see it every now and again with young strikers, right? Especially ones who are willing to run in behind and be a nuisance. Even if they're just being a nuisance, they're creating they're occupying defenders, are creating things. You see it with Hoyland at United, right? Like, he's not scored in the Prem, but watching United play, I mean, we'll go on to United in a little bit, but watching United play without him at the weekend, I was like, oh my God, we miss him. Because he's like, he holds the ball up quite well. Like, he's not elite in anything, really. Like, he's quick, and he's a handful. He's a big bloke. But, like, just when you got Tony Martial on the pitch, like, what the point? Like, I guess it's the same with, it's the same with Danny Ings and, and any of your other striker options, really, like Mikel Antonio, obviously. You've said numerous times he's not it anymore. Danny Ings certainly ain't it. Danny Ings wasn't it when you signed him, to be honest.
No, like, I think Ings is... You sign Danny Ings if you're playing. Like, I had this chat on the stream last night, actually, and, like, I think I got Cookie, who sends in questions quite a lot, a Southampton fan. He was like, "Oh, it's mad to think Ings was, like, close to like 4 goals away from the Golden Boot like 4 years ago." But it's like, well, one, that was 4 years ago, but two, Southampton played a 4-4-2. Like, really, like, the perfect clubs for Danny Ings would be Everton. But I don't think they're going to be spending any money anytime soon for reasons that we'll discuss later. But, like, it was just, I think the same with Villa as well, just the wrong move for him. I don't know why. It's kind of put out there that, like, it wasn't like Moyes' decision to say, let's sign Danny Ings. It was more David Sullivan went, "Hey, here, David, I brought you Danny Ings." And Moyes has gone, "Oh, okay." Nice one. Thanks for that. But it's like you say, none of the other striking options. And I say Jared Bowen, I love him, but, like, he's much better out on the right. I don't really want to see him shoehorned up front because we haven't got anyone else. And I think it's ironic. Moyes goes on about, like, this particular type of striker that we need, to sort of fill that void that Antonio does and do all the stuff Antonio does. Like, I think Mubama is a very similar type of player. Like, he's a big dude. He's like 6'1", like, he's quick. He'll maybe not bully defenders at this point in his career, but if he gets more opportunities and bulks up a little bit and gets a bit more used to playing senior football, he could definitely be that guy. And I hope he gets more minutes because I want him to sign a new contract. So I do think he's got potential to be like maybe not like, starting striker, but, like, just a good squad player to have. And it's always good to have those sort of homegrown players in your squad. And you touched on it there. We won the Youth Cup last year. We've got a really, really good crop of youngsters coming through. And it's always the concern of them, always, that we're not going to see many of them. But I think out of all of them, Obama definitely seems to be the one who's most ready to sort of come into the first team. And I think since losing Noble, since losing Rice, haven't really got anyone from the academy anywhere near the apart from Ben Johnson, who's been ostracised for being crap. So, like, there's not really anyone else in the team like that. And I think especially for a club like West Ham, who have the Academy of Football written in our dugout and we haven't produced anyone since Declan Rice. Do you know what I mean? Like, and he's really been the only one in the last decade that we've brought through. Like, we need to start bringing some of these players through. But yeah, hopefully he gets his minutes. But yeah, if I'm a Burnley fan, I'm worried because, like I said, that game was there to be won. I don't know whether Company sort of, because, like, weirdly, well, I'm saying weirdly, like, they took Koleosho off, and I don't know whether that gave us a bit of belief because he was giving Soufal, like, an absolute torrid time down that right hand side, and I don't know if, like, he was injured or he was just knackered, but, like, Company took him off, and it just felt like Burnley lost any form of attacking threat once he was off the pitch. He looks like a real handful, and if and when Burnley do go down, I don't think he'll necessarily be there for them next year. I think someone else will take a punt on him.
Yeah, he's similar, like Koleosho, to I think quite a few players they've got at the club where they cause issues, but they just can't score. Like,
no,
they can't score, and then they're just so open at the back all the time. They've got that. They really remind me of that second season with Leeds under Bielsa, where like they stack the top of the pitch so high and push so many people forward, but that Leeds team had better players. Like, it's a Burnley team that's full of youngsters and championship players. And, like, it's nothing against, like, I like Burnley as a club, and I think, like, company last year showed that he is a good coach. He can get a team playing well. I just think they're out of the depth. Like I think they've not got the players to do it, and especially when like the most like they were leaning on Lyle Foster quite a lot to like do any of the heavy lifting to get some goals, and he's obviously like he's had to take time away from the game, and you know, I hope he gets the help he needs and comes out of it, you know, with comes out of it with flying colours
as well as he can do,
as well as he can. That's what I'm trying to say. But you lose that kind of player, and then what have you got? You've got like a couple of a few players who've got some Premier League experience, who have are probably past their best. Like Jay Rodriguez, he's in his mid-30s now, and he wasn't even that great when he was in his prime. Like he's fine. He's a fine squad player to have. I'll never forget the absolute cannonball that he scored at Old Trafford from about 30 yards.
He did, didn't he? Yeah. Southampton, I think it was. Or was it for Burnley?
Yeah. Drilled it in from 30 yards. Like, Jesus Christ. But like he's not someone you're gonna hang your hat on to get you even like 10 goals a season, 15 goals a season. Like, so yeah, I think you're right. I think they're gonna struggle unless there is significant investment or kind of big reinforcements in January. But even then, are they too cut adrift? Like it says a lot when Everton have had 10 points taken off them and they're still above them.
Yeah. I was going to say as well. You say about reinforcement. They've already spent 100 million in the summer. Like I know it's all on young players, but like that's the route they clearly want to go down, which sort of makes me wonder whether they actually would go as far to sack Company before the season ends, or whether they sort of went into this knowing like, let's just give them the players now. And if we do go down, we'll come straight back up, and hopefully it'll be better for it. Again, when you say it reminds you of Leeds, this reminds me more of Norwich when so it's a good point. When they had Farke in charge, like it's very similar in terms of like the quality, sort of good crop of young players and exciting sort of talented players who you stick them in the Championship. Like it was absolute cakewalk for them, but then like because they came up twice. I think that same squad pretty much came up twice, right? With like Pookie and Buendia and Aarons and all that, and both times they just looked, let's say, out of their depth. Just couldn't compete, apart from the other freak result here and there. I think they beat City the first time they came up, I think. But, like, yeah, just nowhere near good enough to compete. And I think that's where Burnley are right now. And, yeah, it's like I say, I think it does. A lot's been made about the sort of quality of the bottom three. And, yeah, it's not good. Or the quality of the promoted teams, I should say. And, yeah, it's not great this year. But I think everyone kind of had Burnley doing a lot better than they have been this season. And I think even they probably would expect to do a lot better than they have been because, yeah, it's not been good.
Yeah, I think it was mainly based off how well they did last year because they looked a complete cut above, didn't they, in the Championship?
Yeah.
Thought, all right, well, maybe they can come up and influence the game in the way that they want to do, but they're just coming up against better teams with better players teams again who are used to playing against possession-heavy sides, who are used to playing against Man Cities who are doing it at a much higher level. I wonder whether Company would do better with a bigger club with better players available because. He's working on a certain kind of budget with the certain kind of players that he can attract.
Yeah,
and when you're working with those kind of players, it's going to be really, really tough to make anything stick like that. The only ones that I can really think of, like, you could maybe throw Brighton in there, but they're playing again. I think they've just got much better players. Swansea is the one that sticks with me, where they had a team of Championship players and were playing some like possession football, like proper tiki-taka possession football, and we're making it work. But that was a decade ago now. Like I wonder whether it's just everyone knows how to play against those kind of teams now. It's all right, you can have the thing. We'll just let you on the break. We're better than you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think doing that, and that was the most surprising thing about the weekend. It was like knowing how Burnley are going to play. I was like, this should really be set up for West Ham to win 3-0 or 3-1 like comfortably. Do what we do, where like. I don't want us to sit back and defend against like the team who's bottom of the table or not, but like I get it. Like you got to try and counter what they're trying to do, and sort of the mix of styles from what Burnley try and do, what Moyes wants to do, usually weighs quite heavily in Moyes' favour. I think that was the more frustrating thing. It's like we defend, and we get the ball, and just nothing would happen. there was no plan. I think I've said this so many times. Like we're lauded for being such a good counter-attacking team, sort of like in the by the outside world and stuff. It's like the amount of times I've seen this against teams where like we sit back, we get the ball, and then we just don't know what to do in terms of forming a good counter-attack. Like, yeah, very, very frustrating. I think Moyes is very, very lucky to come away with a win with that. think the company can consider himself quite unlucky. And it's interesting to say what company do. I would be interested to see what would happen if company got given the West Ham job. I don't think he ever would, because I think they'd look at what happened this season and go, "Oh, yeah, I'm not going to go near him," sort of thing. But like you say, in terms of like the step up for company, I think the squad West Ham have currently got compared to Burnley's, like I say, I'd be very interested to see what you could do with that group of players. But according to Twitter, West Ham can't get anyone better than David Moyes, so don't worry about it. Like,
there's no better managers, to be fair.
No, it's like
who else won the Europa Conference League last year? No one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's Moyes or Mourinho. They're the two that West Ham can really attract.
They're the only choice.
Yeah,
Klopp's not going to leave Liverpool yet, so.
No. But when we're in the Europa League, you never know. I might tempt him. Yeah. So I don't know. As I say, it's more the same with West Ham. We'll be fine. The football's fucking boring though, and I'm already ready for the season to be over and for the next chapter to happen. But,
I mean, you said it a few weeks ago, didn't you? Where it's like, well, it's kind of, what's the point of this year then?
Yeah.
Like, what is the point? Like, we're just waiting for a few contracts to go, or looking for a new manager, looking for like different kinds of players. It is like a bit of a. It's wild to say. We're 13 games in, like we're just past the third of the way through the season, and it's almost like a write-off. It's like
well, it is, but and the thing is, like, I get it because I've had these debates with people who aren't West Ham fans. I do understand how it must look from the outside in, right? Because it's like you're moaning, but you're ninth in the table, League Cup quarter final, and you're top of Europa League group, 1 win away from securing qualification, 4 points from winning the group. Like, what could you possibly have to moan about? It's like, yeah, I get it. From the outside looking in, all looks rosy, but it's like I watch it week in, week out. So it's like I
have to watch this.
I have to watch this. And it's like, no disrespect to anyone who's sort of trying to argue a point with me. I know more than you about this subject. It's like I've got more evidence to back up my point rather than just going, well, look at the table. Like, yeah, we're fine. And I said at the start of the season, mid-table into a cup run or two would be great. But like, I was at the same point, I was never that sold on Moyes staying beyond last season anyway. So it's like, whilst we're hitting the objectives that I would like to hit, it's still not been that great to watch by like the first 4 games of the season. Although Alisson might be out for the cup quarter final. So, there's our chances of winning have gone from 0% to about 0.5 against Liverpool. So, that's good. That's good at least.
Well, it's like you say, it's not like you can't have a good season, but I think when you're accepting like a decent cup run, mid-table, that'd be great. But I want to see you want to see what the next step's going to be, rather than just being more of the same again for another year. It's like, where's the movement? And it was like that at United for ages. Like, where is the improvement year on year? Like, I don't mind if we're still in the same position and we're still winning the same amount of games, but you want to see the improvement year to year. Like, you want to feel like there's an end point rather than just treading water. Like, rather than just staying in the same spot you always are because you're treading water.
It's the thing Moyes said when he came back, and he keeps bringing up every now and then about like, I want us to get to a point where we're playing. I want us to be a good footballing side and all that, and want us to be good, play good attacking football and whatnot. And it's like, you've been saying this for like 3 years now, man. You spent about 400 million quid in the process. Like, you've got good players. Like, there's no excuse for going to Turf Moor and sitting back and soaking up the pressure and waiting on the counter attacks. Like, you've got a squad of players good enough to go to Burnley and win a lot more convincingly than we did. And I mentioned the thing on Twitter, like someone, I think it was a Brighton fan, replied to me saying like, yeah, like you're not realistic, you won't get anyone better than Moyes. So like, there's no point asking for a change of management. I said to him, it's like, it's different scenarios, but like I remember people saying the exact same thing when Chris Hughton got sacked by Brighton. People going, what are they doing? Then who do they think they are? Chris Hughton's going to guarantee to keep in the Premier League all the year. Like, you're never going to get anyone who's going to do that and be as good as he was. And look what happened to Brighton. So it's like the idea that you can't get better than what you currently have is nonsense. I get it's a risk. Obviously, then we might appoint someone. It might come in and be a complete disaster, and we're back to square one again. But like, we've had Moyes for 3 years now, and we've reached, I believe, the peak of what we're going to achieve. So why not try something different and go for someone else who might take us a little bit further? And also as well, football is, especially for people who pay to go to the games. I don't want to use that card, but like, as somebody goes to every home game, but I wouldn't mind being entertained every once in a while. Like, sometimes we go and win a game, I walk away going, yeah, we won, but that was fucking awful.
I mean, City play there once a year, so.
Yeah, true. That was actually a good game this year as well. So got to see Erling, massive Erling. So
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll be back next. I mean, to be fair, West Ham Palace is usually quite a good game, so we got them next weekend. So hopefully we've got something a little bit more exciting to talk about, or we'll lose, and I'll be even more annoyed. So
all the good
watch
players
this
are injured.
space.
So you'll be fine.
That is true. Yeah, I saw Decore and Eze both out, but Elise's back, and he scored an outrageously good goal at the weekend. So
yeah, I mean, it would have been a goal of the year if it wasn't for Alejandro Garnacho, wouldn't it?
I mean, we haven't actually asked for any hot takes for the viewers this week, so I'll throw one up. I actually thought Elise's goal was better than Garnacho's.
I think in terms of the actual the dribble and the run and the finish, yeah, but I think to score an overhead kick like that, it's just always going to be top of the highlight reel. Of course, I think. To be like, he got man of the match as well, which was a bit disingenuous because he was pretty crap the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot.
He's like, he did nothing for 89 minutes, but did score one of the best goals I've ever seen.
That's the thing. Like, I'm very like, I feel like I'm being like a bit like, oh, it wasn't that good. Like, it was obviously really good, but like I've seen, and I'm a bit wary of like, I feel like in modern punditry and football commentary and whatnot, everyone's very quick to be like, X is the greatest thing of all time, sort of thing. Do you know, if it says like the Liverpool team was the best Liverpool team of all time, then it was the City team, and then it's like everything has to be the best thing ever. And I saw loads of people being like, it's the best, it's the best Premier League goal of all time. And I'm like, okay, can we just calm fucking down for a minute? Like, oh, it's like, it's the best bicycle kick in the Premier League era of all time. It's like, it might be. I need to go back and watch all the other ones.
It's one of the best overhead kicks I've ever seen, but
it is fantastic.
It's just one of them.
Yeah. And it's like, I actually went back and watched the Premier League. Have got a compilation of some of the best bicycle kicks ever scored. I'll say this: it was better than Rooney's against City. Yeah. It was definitely better than Rooney's against City because he shinned it.
The thing with the Rooney one though is it was a winning goal in a Manchester derby.
Exactly.
Like that, so it means more.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, let's not forget, like the Gareth Bale overhead kick in the Champions League final.
Massively overlooked all the time.
Unbelievable. I mean, was it Juve, the Cristiano Ronaldo one, where he jumped about 20 feet in the air?
Yeah, yeah.
Not there. Like he stepped on a landmine or something.
Yeah, I was saying on the stream last night, actually. I've always said the Bale one gets overlooked, I think, because that's remembered as the Karius final. Because Karius had such a stinker and dropped two absolute clangers for two of their goals. You forget about the absolute wonder goal that was Bale's overhead kick.
Yeah, like, I think it was the third goal as well. So it's like, you're just rubbing it in now.
Yeah, exactly. He's taking a piss now, Gareth.
Yeah, Jesus, go play some golf, son.
Yeah. But we started talking about it. So Man United are one of the most informed teams in the league, which is
the most informed team in the league, which blows my mind.
Out of fucking nowhere, didn't it?
Zero goal difference.
I looked at the table, I was like, they're like 3 points off Liverpool or something. Yeah. Like, really close to Liverpool.
4 points off Liverpool and Villa. 2 points.
That's mental.
2 points behind Spurs, who are the best team in the world, apparently. Yeah. Well, speaking of Spurs,
have you not heard? Ange's now a fraud and like awful. He's now terrible. Like, it's weird how that changes, isn't it? Like,
they were doing really well until all of their players got injured and sent off.
Exactly.
Speaking of Spurs, that title challenge lasted about as long as Man United's last year, didn't it? That was a short-lived one. But like it's one of those things with United where like we've somehow managed to win. I think it's 5 of the last 6 in the Premier League.
Yeah,
and we talked about it last time. It's like it's not papering over the crack. I'm not papering over the cracks and like pretending like we've been playing really well. I thought the second half against Everton we actually played pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah,
I thought we were dire in the first half. I thought we were terrible. But like,
especially looked for a while, I thought.
Yeah, like we started to have a few things click and a few players turned up a little bit and just like some passages of play which we've just not seen in ages.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we've somehow managed to be 6th.
I told you, it's what United do.
Yeah, so if we actually start playing well, then we might be on for the top 4. Like, who knows? But we've got a couple of massive games coming up. We've got obviously like the European games coming up. We're away in Turkey, which is always an easier one. And then we've got Bayern Munich as well. So.
God, yeah, you really have made a pig through that Champions League campaign. I'm like,
God, yeah. So it's not all great, and we have got still got a few injuries and stuff. But I thought it was a much better performance, and I need to give. I know, like I said before, Garnacho got man of the match. I thought Rashford still looks off the pace a little bit. Like things just aren't coming off for him. Like
no,
he still doesn't look quite. I mean, he was involved in the first goal, and some of his interplay, like in parts, was pretty good. But it feels like Rashford, when he's confident and firing, he gets the ball and he just runs at people and past people.
Yeah.
Like, whereas it feels like he's chopping back and he's second guessing himself and he's trying to like do other things. He did put in a really, really good, like the one bit of play that looked like him was beat the guy on the outside, whipped a ball at the back post with his left foot, and Garnacho just put it into the side net. And I thought, do that more. Like, get that. He got a goal. Like he got his penalty. So maybe he's just getting it. Like, hopefully that'll give him a bit of confidence. But still, like, it felt like the same old from him. I need to give a shout out to Kobbie Mainoo. Who started his first ever Premier League game and looked like he'd been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah.
He just
I know quite a few United fans like in the summer were going like, oh, he's injured, but when he's back, like he's going to play and like he's going to be really good. And I was like, sure. Like, obviously I don't know anything about the United youth players, but like, it was like, okay, like it seems a bit quite bold to be hanging like your hat on like a youth player to come in and sort of be the difference maker. But honestly, fair play. I thought he was exceptional. Like, so good.
When we've seen Casemiro and Sofian Amrabat playing as a single pivot in that midfield and looking lost and slow and just off the pace of the game, this 18-year-old kid was just sat there with his studs on the ball waiting for people to come and tackle him and like just ghosting past them, playing an easy pass outside, mopping things up. And he's just got this kind of air of he just doesn't look flappable. He doesn't panic. The best compliment I heard about it is like he looked like a Man City player.
Yeah,
like that was the best compliment, which just sucked for Man United fans. But like the best compliment I heard was like he looked like a Man City player out there because he just takes the ball, does it easy, doesn't panic, 1 and 2 touch stuff. There were a few times where he dwelled on the ball a little bit, but man, if he can stay fit and like we can get a good 20 games out of him this year, bed him in, give him some experience. I don't want to like get overexcited off one game, but this is a kid that has consistently been playing above his age group. So he was in the under-18 cup winning team when he was 16. Like he was in the middle of the park running it. He's always been like 2 years ahead. And he's the youngest starting midfielder in a Man United squad ever.
Wow.
Like that, I found that out after the game. Like he's the youngest person to ever start in a Man United midfield because it's usually a position where you want a bit of experience and a bit of something like that. So I think the sky's the limit for the kid. Even if he just kind of stays at a decent level, he'll be a good Premier League player. But from what I understand and people who have followed his career, like this kid's just like I say, sky's the limit a little bit. We'll see where it goes. Hopefully, we can kind of see what happens. But I thought a really good game.
It was a great tweet from Euroexpert I follow on Twitter. So they quote tweeted someone who's like raving about Mane's performance, rightfully so. And he just tweeted, "It's going to absolutely suck when United find a way to ruin him." So I was like, yeah.
Can't wait for him to leave to Juve on a free in 18 months.
Yeah, or other stuff.
And then we'll buy him back for 120 million in 3 years.
There you go. Yeah, and let the cycle repeat itself. It's interesting. I didn't clock he was the youngest ever central midfield. Was it central midfielders to play for start game for United? Yeah, I would have thought Ravel Morrison would have had that, but I guess he didn't really play loads for United, did he? I suppose actually.
No, I don't really think he ever. I don't think he ever got a start. To be honest, I think he came up.
Did not? Oh wow.
Stuff. But like I said, hopefully him coming in and like a few of the other players like coming back and getting fit. I think Luke Shaw showed what we've been missing. This whole time, like kind of understated. He didn't have a man of the match performance, but he's one of the better ball progressors that we've got at the club, and being able to use him to play it from the back and him having that kind of 1-2 with Marcus Rashford like on that left hand side. I think it'll help Rashford as well.
Yeah,
having him back fit. So just we're getting the players back at the right time. Anana, I think, went under the radar of
he was really good,
having an outstanding game. I think he's like everyone really concentrates on like he had a few really bad games. He made a few big gaffes, but he's also I think joint in the Golden Glove race in the Premier League this year. Either that or he's one off. He's also got like one of the highest save percentages. He's got one of the highest post shot XG percentages, which is like how many goals you're saving, how many more goals you're saving than you usually would let in. I think he's got one of the highest of those in the Premier League. Like, he is a really, really good goalkeeper, and it's just like he had these really high profile gaffes, and people going, "Oh, well, they only bought him because he can play out." From the back. It's like, no, he's a great goalkeeper. He's a really good goalkeeper. Just like so happens he can pass the ball as well.
So it's like everyone forgot the Champions League final. Like it was like a few months ago.
And just his entire career before that as well. You don't play for Ajax and then Inter Milan if you're an average goalkeeper. Like, I was gonna
say, to be fair, I think I could play for Ajax at the moment.
Well, might improve the fortunes, to be honest.
Yeah, in a few years I'll go move to United.
Yeah. But yeah, like I thought he was really good, and I think he has been really good recently as well. So it's good to see him turning it around. And yeah, it was, like I say, poor performance in the first half. I thought it was a better performance in the second half. Still not great, but better. Like, created some chances. I thought Martial took his goal well, even though he did the square root of nothing the entire game before that. Did absolutely nothing. But he's one of those players, like, if he's in one-on-one on goal, he's probably going to score. Like, he's just one of those players, like, he's really composed. He's just, his game's not there anymore. He needs to move on. I hope we don't give him a new contract. It's up at the end of the year.
I can imagine it scores the goal against Everton, gets ruled with a 5-year deal.
Yeah. Those kind of players we need to just cut our losses on, like, and move on. So we'll see how it goes. Like I say, good win in a win that we needed, and I was worried after the Everton kind of debacle. I thought Everton had been playing really well, been scoring some goals, are always solid at the back. Now they've got this us against the world mentality because of the 10-point reduction that they've had. Going at Everton as well, going to Goodison Park, and I thought, this has got disaster written all over it.
It made Mainoo's debut like even more impressive, because it's like Goodison Park's not an easy ground to go and play at for most players, like, let alone making your Premier League debut at 18.
And against that midfield as well, who go for you, like that midfield is all action, like all pressure, and he just wrote it out. Like, it was a really good performance. I hope he keeps it up. I hope he keeps those levels of performances up, and it's not just like a bit of a flash in the pan. But kid looks confident. But yeah, speaking of Everton, it's wild. Like I was saying before, like, it's wild that Burnley is still below him in the table.
Yeah, I know.
After 10 points taken off them, I still think they'll stay up. Like, they created chances against United. If it wasn't for Onana, like, genuinely, they could have won that game, because it took us until the second half. It took a wonder goal for us to be ahead. And it took us until the second half to actually kind of get things going. They could have been, they could have been 2 or 3-1 up at half time, and it could have been a very different story.
I was going to say, I wonder what would have happened because it was so early. The Garnacho goal was like 3 minutes. Like, you'd be interested to see what would have happened had that not happened, and if they stayed in the game for a little bit longer, maybe they could have gone to win it, sort of thing. But I'm same as you. I think even with the point deduction, they'll stay up. I mean, I'm looking at the table now, like, I think when you're looking at teams down the bottom, obviously it's important to look at the points and stuff like that. But obviously, because I'm again used to relegation battles, right? You get used to looking at goal difference as well. It's like to put in perspective, I think Bournemouth are say down there. They'll be fine. But Bournemouth from -14, Luton on -11, who are in 17th, Sheffield United in 18th from -23, and Burnley are on -22. Everton -6 goal difference. Like, they'll be like that. That for me is like, because that in a relegation battle, that's like an extra point. Yeah, like 100%, so they'll be absolutely fine. They're only like 5 points away from Luton now, and it's like, it's over the course of the season they just need to get like a few more wins and grind out some draws, and they'll be absolutely fine, even with, like I say, even with the punishment.
I think with them though, like, their December's really tough. I don't know if you've had a look at the December and Christmas fixtures, but I think they've got one of the tougher run of games. So they got Forest away next, which isn't easy, but like, Forest aren't. I think Forest are fine. They're a similar team to Everton. Like, they'll both be comfortably mid-table, I think, at the end of the season. But then they got Newcastle, Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea aren't the Chelsea that we're used to, but they've got very good players. They have put in a few good performances. I thought they were terrible at the weekend again, but like. But that can be a tough game. They've also got Spurs, Man City, Wolves. Like that's their December games as well as the EFL quarterfinal. There is a game away against Burnley in there, so they'll probably
that'll be fine. And the thing is, Chelsea are useless against low blocks, so
they're useless against everything. So
apart from Man City apparently, but that'll be. Yeah, I think that is a really tough run, and I mean, I guess to give them some hope, like Newcastle might not be able to field a team for their game. It's like an injury FC. Like they might not be able to field a full strength 11, 11 players. I'm 11 full strength 11. Like
speaking of, like, does it feel like there is just more injuries this year? It feels like there's a load of clubs like United have been hit with it, but like I look across like all the teams, I'm like everyone's missing like 5 or 6 really important players.
Yeah. Like, it's almost like people maybe should start paying attention when players keep talking about, the calendar and how many games they're playing.
Yeah,
I'm looking after themselves and stuff.
I'm going to fall apart.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's funny. I had this chat because I was like the new FM's been out for a while now, and loads of people complain about there's too many injuries, and it's like there is.
Yeah. And there is in the game as well.
Yeah, so it's like that's just the way it is at the moment. Unfortunately, yeah, it is mad. Like I think we're actually bottom of the. I think we've got 2 injuries at the moment. That's Bowen and Antonio. Like, but up until before the international break, I think we were like 0 in terms of injuries. But like I looked at the injury table for the Premier League a few weeks ago, and it's like, it's Newcastle like 15 players or something like that. It is mental.
Yeah,
like absolutely mental.
At the minute, so we've got Brighton have got 12 players out. Bournemouth got 7, Arsenal with 5, Villa with 5, Brentford have got 9 players out.
Yeah.
Chelsea got 9, but Chelsea have got 400 players, so that's fine.
I said this, Chelsea can't. The one club who cannot complain about injuries is Chelsea. The amount of times I've seen Chelsea fans go, "Well, when Cuckoo's injured, doesn't matter. You've got about 80 attacking players. Just pick one."
Spurs are missing 11 now. Newcastle are missing 13.
Yeah,
and like a lot of them are like important players. So Tonali, Jacob Murphy, Dan Burn, Callum Wilson, Sven Botman, Harvey Barnes, Longstaff. Like these like players that this isn't backup players. These are players who start in their best 11. United have got 10 players out. Still, like even though we've got players coming back, we're still missing Casemiro, Martinez, Mount. Christian Eriksen's out. It feels like Malacia's been out all season.
Yeah,
Højlund is out injured as well. Like one of the good bits, one of the good things of the season. He's out. Like that's good. Our one good forward player. God. And he can't even score. Like,
no, in Europe he can though. Premier League he can't score. But mid in the Champions League.
Is he top scorer in the Champions League or something?
He might be. Yeah,
he's not even scored in the Prem. Like,
no.
What's going on, lads? I just want to go back to Everton a little bit and
of course,
talk about the points deduction. And I don't want to get into like why is it happened to them and not Chelsea? Is like I think they agreed that they'd done something wrong and they had one charge.
Yeah.
Whereas Chelsea and Man City are fighting the charges, don't agree with anything, and there's 115 charges.
There you
go. Stamp that. So it is going to take longer. I feel like it's. I don't know about your opinion on this, but like I feel like it's quite harsh. But I almost feel like they're setting out a stall so that they can go, all right. Because I think a lot of it is they're trying to show that they're in control of the Premier League and they don't need this independent advisor or commission or
regulator.
Regulator, yeah. But I also think some of it is like, okay, this is what we're doing for one charge on one club, like so that there is precedent set when they slap the unholy hell out of teams like Man City and Chelsea and things like that, and go, we're gonna do like take X points off you, we're gonna take a trophy off you, or whatever it is, like whatever these things might be. I think it's they're doing things like this so that there is a precedent set, so that City can't go, oh, this is unfair. Well, it's not. They got the same. Like,
that's if it goes that way, then that'd be great. And like,
hello, Cheshire North League.
Actually, you might be able to tell my tone of voice. I don't know how confident I am in that being the case. Like, it's interesting. I listened to there was a journalist. The name escapes me. But he went on Gary Lineker's podcast and sort of did like a big deep dive into how this all came about and stuff. And yes, from the sounds of it, Premier League obviously brought the charge, like investigated, worked with Everton. Like Everton, like I say, admits doing something wrong. They then brought the charges to them, and it was like an independent panel that decided the punishment. And presumably that's going to be the same thing that happens with City and obviously what's happened with Chelsea. I think even Spurs are being investigated now for like a Jermaine Defoe signing from a few years back to do with agent fees and stuff, which is hilarious.
Cheers, Harry.
Cheers, Harry. So yeah, they did a really good job of explaining like the sort of why it's taken so long and all this sort of thing. It's only harsh. The 10-point punishment for me is only harsh if City don't get, like I say, the absolute book thrown at them. Like if City escape this with just a fine, then I said this to somebody the other day. Is like I've never been one to sort of sit there and like cry about corruption and all this sort of thing. Like if City get away with this and don't get like a hefty points deduction if found guilty, like you just got to call it. You got to call it for what it is. Like it's because. And they're not going to get relegated. And I don't necessarily believe they should really, but like that's a whole different conversation, I guess. But they won't get relegated because the Premier League cannot afford to not have Man City in the league. Like in terms of the products of the Premier League, the Premier League need Manchester City. So it's not going to be like they're not going to get relegated down to like League 2 or whatever. Like as funny as that would be, it's just not going to happen. It will be like I don't know. 20 points because the thing is how could you like you're giving Everton 10 points for this one thing and it may well get reduced on appeal. It's 115 charges, or I think it's like 5 different rule breaks amounting to 115 charges, which is mental. It's still ridiculous. Like you can't times that. You can't dock them 150. Like, I can't remember the math would be.
Yes, we
like
can, Breezy. We should.
Can't dock like 100 odd points or whatever. Do you know, or like how 1,000 points or whatever. Like it's just not going to happen. So like it'll be a hefty fine and like 20 points deduction probably for City if and when it comes to it, which won't be enough really considering the amount of rules they've supposedly broken.
I think the thing with it as well is it's like, and I'm kind of conflicted on this because. The reason that Man City have had to work their way around it is because of all these FFP rules that teams didn't have to stick to when they were building their clubs. Like, so the big teams, so I know, like United are as much of this as anyone, but like Abramovich pumping money at the club, like there weren't the rules there to stop him doing that. You know, Man United spending money through the 90s, like that. Granted, it was all like kind of generated. There wasn't like the sugar daddy, but still we're outspending everyone. So. Why can't a team get a rich benefactor and try and bring them up to that level, like bring them up to the same level? You should be able to invest in a club. You should be able to like put an investable amount of money. The thing that's just screwy is the falsifying of sponsorship amounts and like lying about stuff and paying players through the back door so you can outpay everyone and not show it on your books. That's the screwy stuff, right? Like, so like
they did with Mancini as well, right? They did with his Mancini.
That's the Mancini thing is like they had him do a seminar at a club in the Middle East and paid him like $15 million or something like for it. He's like, oh yeah, that's not. By the way, that's not his contract. That's an individual.
Yeah,
thing. It's like okay, and things like again not provable, and I don't know how much of this is in the charges, but like doing similar things to players, like they have fees paid for certain things. Their players are sponsored by companies that are owned by by the same owners of the club, and all these kind of things, like just kind of backhanders and it's just like that's what's not making it a fair playing field. Fair play. If you want to like pump money into a club, you should be able to, right? But it should be something, and it should be a sustainable model. Like it should be like, look, you want to put 300 million into your club, fair enough. Like spend it how you want. Yeah, but it's the falsifying of it. It's stopping other teams being able to compete because you're falsifying these things. That is just that is the gross thing. But to be honest, like it's just the way that football's going. Look at the money that people are getting paid in Saudi now. Like, who's going to hold them to account? Like there isn't. It's just the way that it's going. It's going to be highest bidder, and before we know it, it'll just be teams that can get around these rules who will benefit from it, really.
I've said this before. Like me and mates have had loads of conversations about City and Saudi and all this sort of thing. I've said like because like the conversation always comes up like we should do wage caps and we should do this sort of thing, and it's like I've always said the horse has bolted. Like it's you got that Pandora's box has been opened. It's not something you can now just sort of go, all right, now you've got to dock all your players, like you've got to cut all your players' wages because we're now introducing a salary cap sort of thing. Like it can't. I don't know if legally you can do that. Like, I'm not too sure. Like, it's like I say now Saudis come along and offering paying players what they're playing and stuff, and it's like I say, it's just the way football is now. It's the way football's been going for years, and it all started when I don't want to hold Chelsea as a club necessarily responsible, because it could have been anyone that got taken over. But like I say, for me, it all goes back to when Abramovich came in and bought Chelsea and did what they did.
Yeah.
Like that's like the point of where, for me anyway, where football went from being like this, about the sport, and like, yeah, obviously, like you say, teams had advantages, but United had their advantages and stuff. United went and spent money because they were as successful as they were, and like you say, all the money was generated. Same with probably like Liverpool back in the day, or that, and yeah, you had Blackburn, like a case of Blackburn, right, where like they only came in and pumped loads of money and stuff like that. But it's nowhere near the amounts we're talking nowadays. Like, it's obscene, absolutely obscene.
Yeah, it's
why it makes. Sorry, I'll say just very quickly. It makes what I know Villa have spent money. Makes what teams like Villa and Brighton are doing even more impressive. They're competing with these teams. Like, it's unreal. And again, even they have to spend loads of money to even get that far.
Yeah, it feels like it's a race to the bottom for everyone who's not got a multi-billionaire benefactor. It's like, okay, we're going to have to keep spending all this money to try and keep up with you, and this may all blow up in our face. We might go out of business. Like, like that's just where it is now. Like, because it's, and don't get me wrong, like I'll never hate on a player for taking the money. Like, at the end of the day, football players have been, like, on the grand scheme of things, like in terms of the money generated in the leagues and stuff, but for the most part, have been underpaid. Like, in terms of the actual money that goes into the thing, and they're the ones doing it. They are providing the actual product. They're getting such a small percentage of it. That clip that up like that.
I was going to say, people will love
that. Yeah, players. But like, when you look at any other industry where like the people, like it should be, like when you look at actors, like actors for massive movies, like the headline stars all take a massive cut and a massive wage from it, massive cut of what's going on. Whereas players will take a tiny percentage of it. And a lot of it will go back into into the pockets of other people, of whether it be the UEFA or FIFA or the clubs or the owners or whatever it is. Like that's where the majority of the money goes back in anyway. Yeah, agents taking the money out of the game and everything. So yeah, like I'll never hate on a player for taking the wage that's given to him or arguing for a bigger contract, because at the end of the day, it's an obscene amount of money floating around, and if you're out there running yourself into the ground to make this product, then get what you can.
Yeah, it'll be. I'm very interested to see. I think it's going to take years. Obviously, there's going to be now with the Everton thing. There's going to be pressure on. There is going to be pressure on the Premier League to get this resolved as quickly as they can. I know City's lawyers are dragging it out as much as they can, which, not a great sign of innocence. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm being accused of something and I know I'm innocent, I want the process over and done with as quickly as possible. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sort of drag it out and all this sort of stuff. But anyway, like,
well, there's gonna be a lot. They keep saying, "Oh, we've done nothing wrong. We've got evidence to prove it." It's like, well, show it.
Yeah. Where's the evidence? Yeah.
Where is it?
Like, fucking, it's like the O.J. Simpson version of a football club. But
the glove doesn't fit.
Yeah. But yeah, there's going to be pressure on the Premier League to obviously get this wrapped up. I don't think it will in a while, but I am fascinated to see. And again, there's investigation opening about Chelsea now, going back to what was going on when Abramovich was there. There's obviously a thing with Spurs as well. But like I said, City and Chelsea seem to be the main two. I'm so fascinated to see what they actually conclusion they come to, and if they actually do. Because and again, City got previous for this. Like, it wasn't that long ago UEFA did them for FFP breaches and irregularities and this sort of stuff.
And only let them register 21 players.
Yeah, I know, it's mental, right? Apparently, UEFA actually wanted. There was a feeling UEFA actually wanted to really punish City for that, make an example out of them. I know there was who's the numpty who's now in charge of FIFA? Infantino, is that his name? Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, apparently he was the one who was like, no, just give him a fine, it'll be fine. So weird that, and he's now now president of FIFA. So weird how that works out. Corrupt is as corrupt does, I guess. So
you're always the first one to downplay any shouts of corruption. So to hear you saying it,
I was like, when it's involving him and FIFA, like, especially FIFA, I was like, no, come on, like that's not even a theory. That's like, no, FIFA are corrupt. Like,
it's like the whole thing with the World Cup of like, oh well, it's so we can't have it in Asia, can't have it in Europe. So let's play it in South America. So they can't have it in North America. So it's got to go to the Middle East. That's the only place left.
Yeah,
it's like
they're not even hiding it.
Jesus Christ. But anyway,
yeah, so they're not even hiding it. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, so but Everton will be fine. You'll still stay up. Just be very thankful. Actually, just before we do live on that, be interested because obviously this doesn't only affect Everton. There's also Leicester and Leeds, who I think now are looking to take legal action. I think Southampton aren't because I think they're well aware they would have gone down regardless because they were awful last year.
Yeah. It's like, should we sue as well? It's like,
yeah, it's like the Charlie Hill gift.
We're trying to write that season out of history.
Yeah,
let's pretend like that never happened.
We were crap. Just move on. Just move on. So yeah, interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, if that's if they've got good grounds to sue them for, then that's even more money coming out of Everton, which they probably don't need right now. So
yeah, it's a whole kind of
best of luck.
Because it was wasn't it the players that the players that Everton got pulled up on signing that they shouldn't have been able to afford with the players that actually scored the goals that kept Everton up.
Yeah, it was like Decore scored the winning goal against Bournemouth that kept them up, and like. Yeah, like it's not great. Yeah. Jordan Pickford made a load of saves. He cost a fair amount. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he's got a nice new bumper contract.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, poor Everton. Like we say, we'll probably stay up anyway. But we did kind of touch on it earlier. We're at just a third of the way through the season now, and I think this is a good kind of break point. Like halfway through the season is good, but I think after you see 13 games played. You start to get a really good feel of how the lay of the land is, like who's doing well, who's not, like how things are going. So you had a great idea where we're going to kind of go through our third of the way through the season awards.
Can't say catching on.
Yeah.
But I think the Premier League will be adopting this one, but you never know.
Never say never.
Never say never. Exactly.
Well, we'll go through a few then. Like I have made a few notes, and you're saying that like you had a few things in mind, but. So we'll start off we'll go with the big one first. Signing of the season. I think there's a few really good players who have come into the league. A few who have really set it off. I think there's been some impressive players. Players like I think like Doku's come in and look really good. I don't know if he'd go down as a signing of the season, but I think he's been a really impressive player. Similar with Moussa Diaby as well. I think he's coming to Villa and just give him a little bit of an X factor, a little bit of extra quality that they just seem to be missing in the final third. I mean, it feels like everything's clicking for them at the minute.
Yeah,
and I will go on to other bits of Villa in this as well. But I think he's been a really good pickup. And I'd say as well, like early days, and I know he's injured out at the minute, but Mickey van der Ven at Spurs, looks the real deal. Like, and for a pretty low fee as well, like in the current market. I wasn't sure whether he'd come in and like kind of look a little bit out of his depth because defenders who come over from the Bundesliga sometimes look completely lost. He doesn't. He just looks absolute money in that position. But for me, actually, no, I do want to give another little shout out as well to Anthony Elanga. I think like went from United for an absolute bargain, like for an attacker for 15 million quid for a young Premier League kind of experienced player. He's gone into Forest, looked really good, and I think the biggest compliment you can give him is they've not really missed Brennan Johnson because of how well he's done. Like, I think he's scored like 3 or 4, got a few assists and stuff. So he's not like, he's not Erling Haaland, but he's chipping in. He's playing really well. He's working hard. He's creating and scoring. So I think for a great little transfer, like those kind of transfers for 50 million quid where they just work. I think he does deserve a shout out for that because in a United shirt, I liked him. I just never saw him really ever being,
good enough.
Good enough at United. So it's good to see him go somewhere and actually kind of and step on. But I think there's three really good players or 3 really good kind of bits of transfer business that are on my list, and it'd be good to see if they're on ours as well. I'm kind of lumping them all together here. Kudus, Alvarez, and JWP for what you got for Rice.
Yeah.
So you lose Declan Rice, but bring in a really high quality midfield. Like you just replace what needed replacing there. I think Kudus obviously has taken a little bit of time to settle in, but I think Alvarez and JWP just kind of like slotted into that midfield like they'd always been there. Yeah, like you say, the football hasn't been amazing, but I think that first 4 or 5 games where you came out of the blocks firing, and they were as much of a part of that as anyone. So they've really impressed me. And like I say, you basically lost Rice. You knew it was going to happen, and you've upgraded the squad like with those 3 players like,
massively. And I think you look at the prices we paid for them as well. I think Alvarez is about 35 million, and you think we were after Paulinho. I think he was sort of our first choice as that sort of DM, like out and out defensive midfielder. Rightfully so. Fulham wanted about 50, 60 million for him, and damn right, he's an unbelievable player. To get Alvarez, who's younger, for a lesser fee as well, like he's been. The only times he sort of has a bit of an off game is where it comes off the back of an international break, and he's been travelling, sort of playing games for Mexico and stuff. Like he wasn't great at the weekend, but I can give him a pass because I think he played a game that went into the extra time, and then he got back like sort of Thursday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They had like probably didn't even train before the game.
Did he come off the bench?
No, he started.
Oh, did he start? Right?
He came off after an hour, and like you could tell he wasn't at the races, but you can kind of forgive that a little bit, and that's why why we sent Flynn Downs out on loan, because we haven't got anyone else to cover him when he's not available. And because he will get suspended. That man loves the yellow card.
That's why I like him. You know?
Yeah, so he's fantastic. I love Alvarez, and yeah, Ward-Prowse has been solid as some games where he's not as effective. But when you sign a specialist, you kind of like, and they're that good at what they're specialising in, which obviously for him is set pieces and stuff. Like it's been well worth his weight in gold, I think, and especially what 30 million quid we paid for him for an experienced Premier League midfielder to have as many of assists that he does, and just to get us out of moments where we are in games where we're not playing very well, and just have that ability where we do get a call. Now it's like you get a little bit off your seat. You're like, okay, he can actually provide something. I do think there's been a period of the last few weeks though where he's not been as good as he probably was at the start of the season. Like he's been a bit like he's been playing like how he has been playing. Like it reminds me of like how he has been for England recently. Absent.
He's not
anonymous. Yeah, not there. Like so, like that. Like again, like Forest and Burnley, the last 2 recent games, the game sort of passes him by a little bit, and he does play it a little bit too safe at times. Like, and it's frustrating because he's good enough. Like the pass he plays to Kudus for, I think the second goal or first goal of the weekend, is really really good. Just like picks the ball up in the halfway line, just pings it straight onto Kudus's foot. So, like he's very underrated in terms of what he can do with football outside of set pieces. Yeah. I just want to see him do more of it. But I think because knowing Moyes, because we've got you Paqueta and Kudus and and players like that who are a bit flary and stuff, he's probably under instruction to just sort of keep it ticking over and not try anything too risky, which is frustrating.
I always felt that way with JWP, and that like because he's so good at certain things, and it's kind of like it's almost like the Beckham issue. Of like because he's so good with dead balls, like with whether it be free kicks or corners, you overlook how good he is as a player in other areas. And he's not on the same level as Beckham. No. Like Beckham was a world class player who was also a world class set piece specialist. But he's a really good, very experienced, high level Premier League midfielder. Yeah, he's not Yaya Toure, but who is like he's a really solid player. Like he could definitely be playing like for one of the top 6, top 4 teams. Like I think he goes into that Liverpool team, and I think he improves them. I think he goes into the United team. I think he improves them. Like he's a very very good player. So yeah, like I'm kind of lumping him together as the midfield signing as a good signing.
I do love Mike Kudus as well. What a player! Oh, yeah, so good, so good.
Yeah, it's good to see him actually getting a run now. Like
I think he's in the team now. I think that's like.
Even Moyes can't turn out.
No. The curious thing will be is what happens when Bowen's back. I imagine he's going to persist with Bowen up front, but like, trying to find. The thing is, I think you can just get away with having him, Paqueta, and Bowen as a front 3, almost just sort of interchange him throughout an entire game. I don't think they have to necessarily have set positions, but I think that's a bit too tropical for David Moyes. That's going to be a thing.
That's not vanilla.
No,
I think back onto the sign of the season. I think the one that everyone's going to say is James Maddison at Spurs. I think he's stepped in. I mean, he was putting up unbelievable numbers in a very bad Leicester side last year.
Yeah.
And I think he's just stepped into that Spurs team and looked everything that everyone expected that he could be.
Yeah.
He's creative, he scores goals, like he's just got like the freedom of the park. And I think especially in that system that Spurs are playing, where it is all about a lot of fluid movement and a lot of interchanging of positions, just him being able to get on the ball and find runners is massive. And I think like now he's out, like hopefully he comes back and finds his form again for Spurs, like, and for him and for England at the end of the season as well, right? Like hopefully he finds his form again and keeps that level up. Because they look a bit lost without him, like without that creativity, like because he's picked up the mantle of what Harry Kane was doing. Obviously, he's not scoring as many goals, but he's putting things on the plate for other people. So I think he'll be someone that will always be discussed as that. But I'm actually going to go with, for signing of the season, and for like a weird reasoning, right? I'm going to go Declan Rice because no one's talking about his fee anymore. He's gone into that Arsenal team and he's been great. He's just great most of the time. Yeah. And no one's going, oh, he cost 120 million. It's just Declan Rice is good again.
It's that thing. It's I feel like I'm going to be not smug, but like I'll be smug for years because like I there was when he first broke into the team, I had to defend him so much and go no Sean Longstaff is not better than Declan Rice. You're talking shit, Newcastle fans, but like all that sort of crap. And he's just like you say. No one talks about the fee. You see Arsenal fans talk about him now, and I saw like over the weekend people being like, some Arsenal fans being like, I feel like we should send West Ham another 20 million because it feels like a bit of a robbery. We only paid 100 million for him. Like and I said it a few weeks ago. You look at him, you look at how he's gone into that team and how. Like they obviously Arsenal, one of the accusations you could throw at Arsenal last year was a soft underbelly, and because of how badly they did bottle it. I don't care what they say, they did bottle the title last year. Like I don't think that happens with him in that midfield, and Partey doesn't get a look in now. Like it's because he's not as good as Declan Rice is at that job. He's like I said, he could be the reason that Arsenal go on and win the league this year. And I think if that happens, it doesn't matter much. It's worth it. Doesn't matter how much they pay for him. Absolutely worth it. Although. And I had to bring this up because I knew it would annoy me, and it did annoy me. I saw it was on the kickoff, and whatever. But I was on the kickoff, and Geordie turns around and goes, Declan Rice, by the way, like I knew he was good, but there's something about this season. He looks world class. It's like it's because he's wearing an Arsenal shirt, you moron.
He's always been this good.
It drives me up the wall. Again, I call it the Michael Carrick syndrome. Because I think I said before, we had the exact same thing with Carrick. Left West Ham, and we goes, he was always, God, he's got really good since he left. Like, no, I mean, he did eventually get better, but like in the immediate aftermath of him losing, like, no, he's always been this great. Stop it. Anyway, that's the last I'll mention it because it's old news at this point. No, it's not. It's not. But no, like I say, like I always say, he was world class for us, and he's world class now for Arsenal. And I said before, I think him and. In terms of central midfielders that England have, like out and out central midfielders, only Jude Bellingham is better than Declan Rice in terms of like English central midfielders. Because obviously I know you've got like Foden and people like that. They can play, on the wings or the 10 or whatever. But as an out and out central midfielder, for me, it's Rice and Bellingham sort of stand as England's two best central midfielders. Like,
well, Bellingham's a striker now. So.
He
just plays where he wants.
Yeah, he's that new type of robot that's coming to the game, like Haaland.
I saw it. Unbelievable stat is like he's the quickest player to 15 goals in Real Madrid history.
Yep. Did it quicker than Ronaldo?
Quicker than Ronaldo. It's like, Christ, he is good.
Can't wait for. You can just imagine Ronaldo now just talking to his agent, going like, "Right, get me back to Madrid. I need to try and beat that record again."
To score 15 goals in the game.
I like the shout for Rice. Like I say, I think that the fact, like you say, the fact no one's talking about the transfer fee shows you how good he's been. Yeah. Like just seamless.
Because that's all that people talked about when he first signed.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they paid too much. They've overpaid for him. He's not that good. Like he's not worth it. No one talks about it anymore.
Yeah, no one's talking about doesn't score or assist enough. Like weird, but that doesn't come up in conversation anymore.
Have you got any other additions to the signing of the season chat? Or
I agree with all of yours. Like Maddison, I think for the fee they paid for him would probably be my one. Like I think it was like 40 million they got him for.
Yeah.
And like you say, the fact he's not playing for him anymore, like because he's injured and stuff. Like they haven't got anyone else who can do what Maddison can do. ultimately.
I mean, not a lot of teams do, to be honest. Do they? Like,
No,
once you lose, I mean, you can see it's not as bad at City because they've got a million brilliant players, but it'd be the same if United lost Bruno. Like, I know Bruno's not been like his best this year. Even though he has been creating chances, he's just there's something a little bit off. But we'd be in the same boat. Like, we lose him who's creating anything. Kobe Mainu, step up.
I think actually my shout though, because I think for what he's done to the team overall, and from where they were last year to where they are now, I think Dominic Szoboszlai is up there for me. It probably is my signing of the season because I think he, not single-handedly, because I know they brought in other midfielders, but I think if you put McAllister in that same role that Szoboszlai's been doing for them, I don't think he's as effective. I don't know if many midfielders would have been. Like, I think he's transformed that Liverpool midfield.
You know what? I did actually have Szoboszlai, but I've written him in the wrong bit.
Did you write him in the next one?
Yeah. So it looks like a steal, which doesn't make sense. Looks like a steal at 60 million, but he does everything at a really high level. Like, and he's another one of those players who I think loads of people were aware of him whilst he was playing in Germany. But it's that whole thing of like, is it going to click? Is he just good in Germany? Is he going to be Jadon Sancho? But I think he's come in and he looks like the complete modern, like, I don't want to say even attacking midfielder, just like the complete modern midfielder, like really mobile. He's like 6'2", like big, he's strong, technically really good, both footed, like can pick a pass, can shoot, he can defend, like he's just got everything. Like,
do you know what it is? He's had the impact. I'm not saying they're a similar type of player because they're not, but he's had the impact that everyone thought Thiago would have when Liverpool signed him. You know, everyone went mental about the Thiago signing because he's a brilliant footballer. But like, I think everyone sort of thought that he was going to be this sort of real difference maker, and it just hasn't really worked out that way. Or maybe even Naby Keita is probably a better example. Like he's what they probably thought Keita was going to be.
I think with the Thiago thing, I think Szoboszlai just fits a Klopp system better.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Thiago, as great a player as he is, he's just at the wrong club. He should be at City or something. Like, for someone who can take the ball and like play that possession style and like just play really quick tiki-taka football. Like, I know that's why they brought him in, to be that player who can do that when they need it. But I think he takes. I've said this to like Liverpool fans, and a lot of my Liverpool mates have agreed. Like, when he plays, he takes away from the potency of Liverpool, because Liverpool are at their best when it's bam, 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 bam. Like, it's just quick. It's like quick movement. Like, you're either running past people or playing quick passes into your forwards. And he takes a touch and he'll play it sideways or backwards, and he'll rotate, and he lets people get back in position. And that's never been how Liverpool have looked their best. And I think it's not a surprise that Liverpool look back to their best with this midfield and the signings that they've got now, because they've got a similar kind of makeup to when they were really good. They've got really high energy midfielders with Gravenberch coming in as well. Like,
he's been good.
But like you got high energy midfielders who are just like this complete package where, you know, it's not just about passing and flair, but like they'll work hard, they run all game. You've got Salah, who's Mo Salah. You've got Darwin Núñez all running behind. You've got like a selection of other forwards who are similar to similar to what you were getting with a Firmino or with a Mane, and like offering just like runs in behind and like constant pressure. And I think it's no surprise that Liverpool look back to their best. I do still think they're missing a proper like shielding midfielder. That'll help cover for. Because like Robertson's not looked the same because he's having to stay back a bit more. So I think like if they can bring in someone like that, maybe in January or maybe at the end of the year, they'll be back right at their peak, because everyone else is like at their peak. Maybe get another year out of Salah before he goes somewhere for ridiculous money. But yeah, like I think it's no surprise that Szoboszlai's been a massive part of that.
Yeah, I think in terms of like impact he's had, like I'd put the impact he's had in that Liverpool team on par with the impact Maddison's had on Spurs. I think he's been so impressive. Big fan of him, and it's one of them players. When he comes to West Ham, I'm looking forward to seeing him play. Like, as much as I want to beat Liverpool, obviously, but I'm looking forward to just watching him play football. Like, he's that good.
He doesn't look like he's missed a beat. He looks like he's been there all the time, and that's a big thing for a new signing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've done our best signings. Let's talk about our flop. I don't like using the word flop, like, but like worst signings, like signings that haven't come off or haven't been worth it or haven't lived up to expectation. I'll let you kind of like take a bit of the lead on this one, as I did the last one. Have you got any names that come to mind? Or
To be honest, there's only really one that comes to mind. I'm trying to think of like a few off the top of my head at the moment, but like there's not many that I look at and there's sort of like obvious. Unless I'm forgetting some, there's not like loads that I look at that are obvious. Like, oh yeah, that was a bit of a. That was a bit. I think I know he scored the winner at the weekend, but Havertz signing at Arsenal still seems weird to me, and it still seems like that 65 million pounds you could have spent elsewhere on a different part of the team, and or maybe like a different type of striker, maybe.
Yeah.
But like he seems so hell bent on making it well, and rightfully so. Like you bought this, you spent so much money on this player, and you want to. Arteta obviously wants to make it work. I just don't see it. I just don't like Kai Havertz is not a young kid anymore. He's like what 25, 26 now. Havertz, I could be wrong. Like
he's still like young, but he's not like.
He's 24.
He's not a baby. Like
yeah, so he's 24. But it's like and he's one of those footballers who just doesn't have a position. Like Andre Ayew, when we had him, was like very similar. Like we usually say, when he plays his best position, he's great. Problem is, no one knows what his best position is, and he's getting to the point where like fucking Germany are playing him at left back. Like, I'm trying to figure out what. So let's try him at fullback, see if that works. Like, I mean, there's a talented footballer there who just doesn't have a set position anywhere on a football pitch, and I think for Arsenal, after the season they had last year, to put that much money into him, I think, like I said, I still think they could have invested that money on a different area, like maybe on a different type of striker. Because I like Jesus, but sometimes you need a different type of forward, and I think Jesus and Nketiah are a little bit too similar in terms of stature and play style and stuff. And I think they could have done with going for like a Vlahovic or a bigger, like a more physical striker, I should say.
Yeah, someone who you can hang your hat on for getting, even if it's 20 crap goals. Like just get your 20 goals, because that would have won the league last year as well. Like.
Well, Arsenal put loads of crosses into the box. It's not like they're just tiki taka, like death by a thousand cuts sort of thing. Like they are happy, they are willing to go direct and whip crosses in. Like
it's just the small people.
Yeah, I said this again. I think when they played you guys, then they won the 3-1. I said I was watching them. I said I'm watching them crosses into the box. They got Nketiah and Jesus to aim for. It's like they've got Maguire and Evans. Like, they're laughing at you, lads. What are you doing?
Yeah, it really worked out for that.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'll step back. Yeah, for me though, and again, there may be others I'm forgetting, but the one that stands out for me, and I think because of the fee, and it's not entirely his fault, I don't think, but I think Mason Mount to United's been a bit of a disaster so far. And it's a shame because I like Mason Mount as a player, and I wanted it to work. But
everything that you just said about Kai Havertz, you could say exactly the same things about Mason Mount. I don't think he's a bad player. I don't think Havertz is a bad player. I don't think either of them are bad players. I think they're just players that were signed that weren't necessarily needed. And I think in both cases, their best position is already occupied by someone who's better than them. So I'd say Havertz, like he made his young career, obviously, like in Germany, being a box crashing number 10, like getting on the end of stuff, being creative. Ødegaard's better. Mason Mount, you're not getting in ahead of Bruno as a number 10. Like
no.
And I kind of, when the transfer was made, I thought, great, like this is a really good opportunity to rotate with other players. Like so he can play off either side. He can play as a 10. He can even play as like an attacking 8. It's like cool. Like so he can come in when Rashford needs a game off, or Bruno needs a game off, or we need someone on the right. I'll just need a little bit of a different dynamic. It's like, you know what? If he's going to be used like that, and he's going to play 6 or 10 games just in slightly different positions for different uses, like a bit of a Swiss Army knife player, it's like great. But he's playing as like a 6, and and to be honest, like a big part of it is like I don't know what the manager's doing with him. I don't think it's on him so much, and it's kind of the same with Havertz at Arsenal. It's like, what is the manager seeing in you? What is he trying to do with you? And I don't know whether it is just a case of. And to be fair, like with Mason Mount as well, like he's been completely like curtailed with injuries. He keeps on picking up now, so he's not getting a run in the team. I actually thought the last game he played before the international break was one of the better ones that he played. I thought he had a presence in midfield. He was picking passes. He was finding spaces, and he was getting in between and being the go-between between attacking moves. It's like, cool, like keep doing this. It was the best game he's had in United shirt. He was actually one of the better players on the day. Like, but it was still a case of did we need him? Like when we're screaming out for centre back options or another striker or like. I mean, how many right wingers can we buy? But a right winger, we're screaming out for these things. But yeah, hopefully it'll come good. And I mean, the one thing that I can say with Mason Mount is it's not like he's come into a team that's been playing really well, and he's been stinking the place out. No one's been that good, and we've just been kind of getting over the line. So I don't think it's necessarily on him. Whereas I think with Havertz, he comes into a team that's playing really well and looks like he's not very good. I think that's the only thing I'd say with him. Well, actually, I didn't think you were going to say Mason Mount, but I thought when you said when you bring in the fee and all that kind of stuff, I was going to say Casado. And again, like I don't think it's his fault. And again, he's had injuries, so you can't really hold that against him. But I think like when he has played and he's been getting time, like he just doesn't look at it. Like I don't know whether it's again system thing or anything. I wonder whether, like, as a slight tangent, I wonder whether there's a similar thing going on with Brighton players leaving that there is that I've said for years about Ajax players, where they get so ingrained in a system and they know their role so well in a very particular way of playing that you take them out of that, and unless they're world class or very adaptable, they just can't handle it. You see it with Ajax players all the time. They're so well, like especially ones who've come through the youth academy. Yeah, like, and they're just so drilled in playing a certain way, and they know their job they know their job, and they know the 5 players around them's job, and they know where they need to be at every point. When they go into a new team that don't play the exact same way, they get lost. And I think like in the last few years, only really like Frankie de Jong's come out of there and looked really good. Like you've seen big moves, like even Matthias de Ligt's at his second club since leaving now, and he's getting the odd game in defensive midfield. Like, you know, Donny van der Beek can't get a game. Anthony looks lost. Like,
Gravenberch was another one, wasn't he? Gravenberch was another one, wasn't he?
Gravenberch, so he's moved on. Like he couldn't get a game at Bayern. Like all these players who just look lost. But I wonder whether it's a similar thing to Brighton players. Because Alexis McAllister, whilst he's not been bad, I don't think he's not looked a shadow of the player that he did at Brighton. But again, he's playing in a very different position.
I think there's a bigger. I think there's more of an excuse for McAllister, and it's like he's playing a just completely different role. He's not the main sort of focal creative point of that midfield like he probably was at Brighton. He's playing as a creative 6, isn't he? But
you could say about Casado, you could say about Cucurella, who's left as well. Like players who have gone on from Brighton, and like they just look. I don't think it's necessarily as ingrained as the Ajax thing, but I wonder whether it is that thing of like they look great in this system until you take them out of the system. Because Cucurella looked like one of the best left backs in the league at Brighton, and now he looks like one of the worst left backs in the
league. I think, it's mad. I completely forgot about Caicedo, which is like, I think that kind of says quite a lot in itself, really.
I think he has had a lot of injuries, and again, I'll kind of use the Mount defense on him as well.
Yeah,
none of them have been playing very well.
No,
it's not like he's going in and stinking the place out in a club that's playing really well. Like he's going into a team that's in a transition, trying to changing managers. We've got 400 players. Like, I think time will tell with him. And I do think he's a talented kid, but it's just the money spent is just nuts.
I kind of think you kind of have to compare him a little bit with Rice because similar positions on the pitch, similar fees, right? Like
chalk and cheese.
And I've seen it from Arsenal fans this year when they've had games where they've not necessarily they've had a defeat in the Champions League and they've lost to Newcastle and stuff. Like usually, though, a lot of the time you'll sort of see Arsenal fans talk about the game after they've had a bad performance. You'll be like, oh, only like this player and Rice can come away with their head held high sort of things. It's like the sort of consensus of the team and play well. Rice is usually can come away with credit because he's actually had some sort of impact in a positive way. You know, I haven't really seen that with Caicedo with Chelsea yet. And again, I know that it's a completely different scenario with what Arsenal are doing this season and what Chelsea are doing. But like I said, there's games I've watched this year and I just feel like, I don't know, just in a midfield where like you've got Caicedo, Enzo and Conor Gallagher, more often than not, Gallagher's coming out looking like the best out of the 3 of them.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like I really like Conor Gallagher, but there's no way he's should be on the same level ability-wise as the other 2. But yeah, so the fee makes it look a whole lot worse than it probably actually is. But yeah,
if they'd have paid, I mean, still like 60 million is a lot of money, right? But if they pay that much money for him, I don't think it's as bad. And again, like he has had a few injuries. I think he's not played all the games because of that. But like I say, hopefully for him, not necessarily for Chelsea. Hopefully it comes good for him because he seems like a nice bloke. Whenever I've seen interviews with him, and like hopefully it pays off. And it's the same deal with Lavia, right? Who went there, and I think he immediately got injured. Like he's not played a single game.
No, that's another kick, I see. So
you don't want to see. I don't want to see young players kind of fall by the wayside. But speaking of players who I don't think have been, I've got a couple of extra ones there, by the way. A couple of players who I just don't think have been worth the money. First off, kind of a bit out of left field, James Trafford, 20 million to Burnley.
Oh, that's a great
I think
shout.
he's crap.
Yeah,
I think he's
good.
a very bad goalkeeper. And like again, like a really young kid, right? I don't want to see him like lose a career or anything like that. But he just does not look like a Premier League quality goalkeeper. I know he had a really good Euros with the England under-21s. Obviously won it. Like he was one of the standout players in that tournament.
Yeah.
But honestly, whenever I see him play, it's like he doesn't know how to keep a goal. I think he's very much he can play out from the back, but he's not a very good goalkeeper. He is everything that people were claiming that Onana is.
He reminds me of not in terms of just in terms of everything around it sort of thing. He reminds me of Bazunu from last year.
Yeah,
I didn't think Bazunu. I didn't think Bazunu was any good for Southampton. I thought it was a really odd signing to bring him in and make him number one straight away.
I saw 5 games of Bazunu and I thought this isn't going to work. Like,
yeah,
I don't know how he's doing in the championship. Maybe he needs a year in the championship, but like,
I don't know how he's doing recently. I remember a few months ago, Russell Martin has to do a whole thing in a press conference where he defended him. So
it's not a good start, is it?
Not great. Yeah, and I think Trafford. I watched the West Ham fan channel talking about the Burnley game the weekend, and they made a point about Trafford because they were saying he's not very good at dealing with crosses. So it's even more mental that we only had one shot in the first half and we weren't putting no crosses in. David Moyes' team weren't putting crosses into a box because a goalkeeper who can't deal with crosses. Make it make sense. But there was a moment in the second half, he came out to get the ball and he just a really crap punch at the ball. He got something on it, but it was no power behind it. And the defender had to clear it. And he was saying, all the Burnley defenders go around giving a head rub and go, oh, well done, mate. And it's so patronising because it's oh, well done, mate. It didn't end up in the back of the net. that's a start. We're off to a good start. He just looks. There was a moment in the game. I think it was just after that, and they zoomed in on him, and he just looks. I feel bad for it. He looks petrified.
Yeah,
he just looks. I think out of his depth. He just does. It's a big call to put that much faith in him for such a young kid.
He was. Was he at loan? Was it Bolton? He was on loan at
Bolton.
So it was on loan. He had a year on loan at Bolton, and I think League One, earning your stripes, all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, as a young goalkeeper, I can't imagine anywhere better to learn your trade than in League One, League Two, because you're just going to get shots lumped at you, crosses lumped at you, big old dudes fighting you all the time. It's not all like that, but there's a lot of older, more experienced players, extreme strikers who are going to try and get the needle in you, right? But. Yeah, he just looked poor kid. He looks just like you say, out of his depth. He just looks lost.
No,
like I say, I hope it turns out well for him. And if they do go down, maybe a year in the championship is the best thing for him. But yeah, I think the money that they paid for him from Man City and the Bazunu came from City as well, so they're not trading the keeper.
Yeah, no.
It's concerning with him.
It's probably because I never have to face any fucking shots. That's probably why.
Yeah. What's this? They're kicking the ball at me.
Jesus Christ. See, that's probably got a lot to do with it. Yeah. So yeah,
I do have one more as well. Speaking of Man City, Nunes went to City for 60 million right at the end of the transfer window. Has he even played? I think he's played a game or two.
He got hooked at half time at Molineux. So
so spend big money on a player. It was definitely a panic, right? Because I think they wanted Paqueta off you guys. But so it was definitely a panic. And I think Nunes looked a good player in that Wolves team. Spent 60 million quid on a 26, 27-year-old who's, he just when he's played what I've seen of him at City, he just doesn't look like he gets it. It's got real Calvin Phillips vibes to me.
Yeah, because I think City are going to be back in for Paqueta in the summer. It's because I think all the betting stuff's going to go away by then, so I think they'll be back in for him. And he's got £85 million release clause; they'll pay it. I think you'll see Nunes shipped out somewhere either on loan or he'll get off to it. Because that's the thing, we were in for him. I think before we signed Paqueta, I think it was the January before the summer we signed Paqueta. So the January of the year we got to the Europa League semi final. I think we looked at Nunes, and we I think Sporting basically because it was right at the end of January, and the Sporting were yeah, no, go away. We're not selling him. And
he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I just he just doesn't fit in that City team at all.
That's the thing is that we end up going to Wolves, and like I didn't watch loads of Wolves last season, but like, the few games I did, he never really sort of stood out. Like for a player with sort of quite a good reputation, and then going to Wolves and stuff, like yeah, he's never really stood out to me. And yeah, I saw he come off the bench when City played us. Like again, it's probably difficult to stand out in that City team, admittedly, but like yeah, it doesn't really just sort of it doesn't really seem to sort of offer anything or do anything or have any real impact. Like
considering that, like if you're going to join a City team, the time to do it is when Gundogan's left and De Bruyne is out for 6 months. And if you're a midfielder and you can't get a grasp or a game, you can't even get a game in that midfield. Yeah. If they're playing Foden, I was going to say Foden out of position, but I don't think I like him as an 8. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah, I do.
But like when you're playing other players, kind of, Pep is still playing just the same 6 players and slightly rotated things, and you're playing Alvarez as a bit of a midfielder. Like you're not doing something right. And you could probably throw Kovacic into that as well, but he was nowhere near as much money.
No.
But yeah, I just think it's a lot of money for a player. And it kind of falls into the same thing as the Havertz and Mason Mount thing, right? It's a lot of money on a player that doesn't really fit. I don't think it doesn't make him a bad player. It doesn't mean he's had a particularly bad year. Just doesn't fit. Well, a bit of a pointless signing, really. And to be fair, I don't think there's a lot where it is like, oh my god, he's coming in, he's been crap.
Like, yeah, there's not been. It's actually most teams have done recruited quite well this season.
It's just not been that good. Well, speaking of managers and how they're using people, we'll go on to manager of the season. I do have a few suggestions. It's really easy to say Pep and Klopp because Klopp's got Liverpool playing well again, and Pep's got Man City, and I'm going to completely look past them because it's just too easy. Yeah. And I'm also going to kind of look past a little bit Ange Postecoglou. Because I feel like, as good a job as he's done, he's still, like, lost, was it 3 of the last 4? Granted, they've got a lot of injuries, but everyone's got a lot of injuries, we were saying before. Yeah. I think he seems like a really nice bloke, and it feels like the transition to post-Harry Kane world has gone a lot smoother because of him, and I think they play some really nice football. But at the same time, I think there's a load of teams that play really nice football with lesser squads. And one of those, for me, is... there's another one I'll come back to. Gary O'Neill, I think, has done an unbelievable job. I had him nailed on for a relegation battle. And they lost all their best players. Speaking of Nunes, but like they've lost most of their best players. They lost their best centre back. Still kept hold of like some good players like Jose Sarr and having what's his name? Is it João Pedro? Not João Pedro. Who's the winger who's come back?
Oh, João. No, I don't know. João something. Someone
the Portuguese winger who'd been out for like 18 months.
Pedro Neto.
Pedro Neto. That's the one. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the other Portuguese guy.
Yeah.
But having him come back was massive. And I think has he got the most assists or created the most chances in the Premier League or something this year? So,
he's up there for it. Yeah.
So that's been massive for him. But just for him to lose his job at Bournemouth, kind of get cast out after doing again a really good job with Bournemouth last year, to then walk into a Wolves side that's lost all of its best players, like they can't spend any money, they've got nothing going for them really. Felt like they were nailed on for a relegation battle. They're playing really good football. I know they've just lost tonight.
Yeah.
In a wild game where there was 3 penalties in the second half, but I think he's done a really, really good job. And again, like tonight, I think he can feel hard done by for not winning that game. They play good football. They're scoring chances. They're creating. They're scoring goals. They're creating chances, and I think a lot of that, if not all of it, is on Gary O'Neill. And I think no matter what happens with this Wolves job, I think he's one of those managers who's just going to kind of just quietly kind of progress up the size of clubs that he manages, because he's showing he's just a really good coach. Like he coaches his teams well, manages them well, gets them performing. I could see him being the next pickup of, like one of those teams that's looking to push on. Say like De Zerbi leaves Brighton. I could definitely see if there's another year or 2 of him doing this well, going there doing something similar.
No, I fully agree. I think he's been. I'm same as you. I thought they'd go down at the start of the year. I was skeptical about the job he'd do, because I think the point I made at the start of the season was it was easier. It was probably easier to galvanise that Bournemouth squad than it would have been this Wolves squad. Yeah. Like, and sort of, I was worried for him in the sense that I don't think there'd be a lot of Wolves players that would have been up for a potential relegation scrap. But I guess the biggest compliment I can play to them is they've not played. I've watched quite a few Wolves games here. They've not really played like a team who feel like they're in a relegation battle. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely
Like
battered us first game of the season.
They're a team with loads of belief. Like they play really good football on the front foot, really like high energy, and yeah, I think he's onto a good thing. And hopefully, for his sake, they get a bit of money to spend in the next couple of seasons, and he can add to that squad and improve it. And I'm really, really interested to see what he does over the next couple of seasons, because I think from like I say, just from a potential England manager perspective, from a potential future West Ham, because he used to play for us, from a future potential West Ham manager perspective, just stuff like that. I'm interested to see how he gets on over the next couple of years.
That's a really good point, actually. Yeah, he'd be a really good choice for you guys. I think plays good football. Obviously, like kind of gets the most out of what he's got, and I think, walking into West Ham, he's got a better squad. Yeah. The other manager I wanted to mention, it's probably a pretty obvious pick, Unai Emery.
Yeah.
I think Villa, they were either one of, if not the best team in the Premier League after he joined. I think in terms of from the period after, I think only Man City got more points. Something like that. It was somewhat ridiculous. Bearing in mind he took over, I think it was November or December.
November, yeah.
And they've just carried it on. He's brought in some better players. Some of their injured players have come back. Diego Carlos and et al. And they play really good football, and he's getting the best out of Ollie Watkins. I wasn't sure whether they needed to bring in another striker in the summer, but Ollie Watkins is, I think, joint top scorer. I think he's just behind Salah in the top scorers in the Premier League, scoring in Europe as well. He just looks like he looks like a proper striker. Like the finish he took at the weekend was a proper striker finish, just out of your feet, bottom corner, pings it in, easy. Like he looks like he's at the top of his game, and hopefully he keeps it up again for England in the summer. So yeah, like I think a lot of people had put him up there in terms of their manager of the season so far. Yeah, which is I think it's a pretty obvious choice, but I think it's worth giving him his flowers, because it's one thing to say it's easy to cast. It's an easy choice, but you have got to appreciate what he's done. With the squad
absolutely.
That has, like you said before, they've spent a lot of money, but only as much as every other team in the middle of the Premier League.
And they've spent it well.
Spent it really well. Got them playing really good football. So big up Unai. If only Arsenal had stuck with him or got the toxic players. If only they got the toxic players out of the club a bit earlier, then who knows what could have happened.
It's one of them. I think Arsenal was wrong club at the wrong time, whereas I think Villa was the right club at the perfect time for him. I think he's been pound for pound best performing manager, over the last sort of 12 months, easily. He's been absolutely exceptional. Part of me does hope they get fourth this year, because I think that'd be great because then that'd be 2 years in a row. I know you got Newcastle with the Saudi owners and stuff, so that kind of spoils it a little bit. But again, I still think what they did last year was incredible, given the squad they've got. Yeah. To have then if Villa went and got fourth again this year, to have Newcastle 1 year, Villa the next year, it does upset that sort of traditional top six a little bit, which I'm all for. Always in favour of. Yeah. I'm fully on board with both of your shouts. I do want to give a mention to Eddie Howe though, because whilst Newcastle haven't been results-wise probably as good as they were last year, but I think you look at the amount of injuries they've had, especially recently. We said earlier, was 13 players currently out with injuries, and they're all first-team regulars. To still be putting in performances and getting results, beat Arsenal, albeit a crap Chelsea team, beat Chelsea. So they beat United. Beat you guys in the cup as well. They've given the Champions League as good of a go as they possibly could have done, and who knows if they had players available more regularly, they probably would be getting out of that group. I don't think they will. But even then, they could drop down to the Europa League and still have a really good Europa League campaign, which I hope doesn't happen, because I really want us to have a good go this year, but it's not going to happen because Liverpool are in it. But
I was going to say Liverpool are still there.
Liverpool, and they're really annoyingly bloody good. But yeah, for me, it's got to be Emery. But as much as I'm impressed by O'Neill and Howe. And especially, I should mention as well, Rob Edwards. I think he's doing a brilliant job with Luton, as well as he can possibly do. And the fact that we're the third away through the season, and albeit because of a point deduction to Everton, they are outside the bottom three, which you definitely take that if you're a Luton fan by now, wouldn't you? So definitely.
That kind of that leads on to I'll kind of change the order a little bit. It's a surprise of the season, because a few of that is in there. I did have Wolves and Gary O'Neill in my surprise of the season, but I've got Luton in there as well. Not because I think obviously the results haven't been particularly great, but I think how well they've come across, how well they're playing against teams that I thought they'd have no chance against. Like they're putting up a fight. They're starting to get a few goals. Like who knows? Like if they can get 3 or 4 like wins in 10, like that can change a lot of the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
And all of that's a lot of that's on Rob Edwards as well. I think I've said previously on the pod. I think whether they stay up or go down, I think he's shown he's a very good manager and a very good coach. And I would not be surprised, unless he wants to stay there and try and bring them back up. I would not be surprised if he got some bigger offers in the summer. Because I think he's showing he's a really good coach there.
I think for biggest surprise for me, I'm not really going to give this to. I don't think I'm going to give this to like a specific team or player. I think my biggest surprise is actually that we're a third of the way through, and it actually looks like we're going to have a pretty decent title race this year.
Yeah,
like I'm looking at the top 4. There's 2 points separating first and fourth, which is like because I'm so used to. But you got to think by this point, Arsenal were about 5 points clear at this point last year. City usually run away with it by this point. I know it's still very early days, but like. It's not a case of City look bad, and that's why the teams are in. Like I don't think City have been as good as they were last year. Like I do think they have dropped off a little bit with losing Gundogan and De Bruyne. But Arsenal look a lot more solid this year and a lot more. I think I said before, capable of just grinding out wins in difficult games. Liverpool look nearly back to their best, and I've got to say as well, actually, Van Dijk looks really good. Van Dijk looks back to his best this year as well. Like for a player I thought was done after that injury against Everton, he looks like the player he was when he first joined them again this year. I think he's been outstanding.
Yeah,
and
I agreed.
And obviously, like I'm not saying Villa are going to get anywhere near close to but you never know. They're only 2 points off. Like it depends how deep they go into the Conference League. But I said this before, they can afford to play weakened teams in the Conference League up until the quarterfinals, really, and have it not affect their Premier League form. So the fact it actually looks like we're going to have a pretty decent title race this year, I think, has actually been my biggest surprise because I thought City were just going to run away with it. I didn't think Liverpool would be as good as they were this year. I wasn't sure about Arsenal. I thought Arsenal would maybe have it this year to sort of get used to their new players and then kick on again next year. But I think, yeah, that's been the biggest surprise. Other than that, I'd say I didn't expect Chelsea to be as bad as they have been. I thought they'd be a bit wobbly, but I thought they'd be like 6th or 7th by now. They're 10th. They've lost more games than they've won. Like Chelsea have been bad. Chelsea, they're a weird team, Chelsea. Because it's almost ridiculous to the point now. They're like they can if you're a team who plays a low block, you must feel so confident playing against them. And it's like if you're a team who usually plays quite high up, just drop back against them because they can't break anyone down.
Yeah.
Like they're such a weird team.
They've got a squad that looks like someone who's played Football Manager for the first time and downloaded a Wonder Kids list. Like it's I think they've got good players, and I think Poch is a decent manager. We'll see where they finish by the end of the season. Maybe they'll get some European places, but I don't see him being anywhere near the top 4 or 5. No. Just onto the surprise of the season. I want to give a shout out to Anthony Gordon.
It's a great show.
Who's been mega. I think we've discussed him plenty. Like I won't go into a long discussion about this. Me and you have talked about it plenty in the past. He deserves the props because when they signed him, said it was too much. I didn't see what he brought to the team at all last year. He had a great summer in the under-21s championship, and I think he's been one of, if not Newcastle's most consistent forward player.
Yeah, I'd agree.
He's been great. He's been scoring goals, setting up chances. He's always a threat. He's got the end product that ASM never had. And he's just really good. So he's had a great season. Also, I had a Langer in here as well. I mentioned him before, but I just wanted to give him a shout out on there. We've kind of covered or started on this with the underachievers with talking about Chelsea. I'd actually put Man United in that as well. I thought we were going to step on. We had a solid season last year. I don't think last year was as good as some people made it out to be. I thought after the form fell off a little bit after the Carabao Cup. So the form kind of fell off a little bit that way. Yeah. We were fine, but I thought with the players that were brought in and the strengthening and another year, I thought we'd be a lot better than we are. But we are the form team in the league. Somehow sick, whilst being crap. So if we can actually kind of get a bit of form together and get some performances going, we might be okay. And I'd also put in, not because I think I expected them. No, I did expect them to do better, and I expected more from the manager. Burnley company. Again, we've already talked about them. I expected more. I thought they were going to be Yeah, maybe I thought they were going to be like fighting it out of 16th, 17th or something, but they've just been woeful, and I think they've just been really, really poor. So like underachievers of the season for me are them, and I want to chuck in a cursory VAR as well.
Yeah, that's the way. Yeah,
VAR for the underachiever of the season.
Yeah, Howard Webb's the biggest underachiever of the season. Yeah, no, I can't argue with any of that. I think it's difficult to put Bournemouth as underachievers. I didn't know what to expect from Bournemouth this year, but I think they've been worse than I thought they were going to be. I wouldn't say they've been the biggest underachiever, but I expected a little bit more from Bournemouth this year, and they've just looked as they were last year. Like,
they started out really poor. To be honest, the last few games they've actually started to get a few things clicking.
Yeah,
and I wonder whether it has just taken that bit of time.
Maybe it has. I'm still not sure on the manager, but it's one of them. I'm happy to be proven wrong in the long run.
Yeah.
But there's,
I still think Wolves will finish above them.
Yeah, I do quite comfortably as well. And I guess maybe I would have said Fulham, but it feels harsh to call them underachievers after overachieving massively last year. So it's like, I think they're just where they should be in the league, Fulham. But I think they'll be okay overall.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. They've just kind of been a bit here nor there, neither here nor there. I would have thrown Fulham in there again, but they just seem to be where they were last year. I think that they massively overachieved last year. That's
the thing, yeah. So it's like I can't say they've underachieved this year when they massively overachieved last year. So it's like
they got away with a lot last year. So I wonder whether it'll just be. We'll see how it goes to the end of the season. But as interesting as the title race is going to be this year, with that Everton points drop, that could spice up the relegation battle as well. We'll see. I still think Everton will be fine, but you could see a couple of teams like Fulham. Have a bad run of games, or Forest have a bad run of games. You could maybe see him getting dragged into it, but it's going to be tough to be as bad as Sheffield United and Burnley.
Yeah, it's going to take some doing. My word.
We've also got player of the season here. But I don't. We kind of covered like the performers of the season. Salah looks back to his best.
I was going to. Salah would be my shout for player of the season so far. I think he's been outrageously good.
I think he had an off season last year where he only scored 25 goals, or whatever. Like, but I think it was because the underperformance of Liverpool. It felt like he, even though he scored a lot of goals, it's easy to blame your most productive player when you have a bad year. But Salah has been great this year, I think. I mean, the mutant at Man City as well, who everyone kind of went, oh, he's going to be crap now. There's no Kevin De Bruyne doing it, and providing the goals. And even though it feels like he's not as potent as last year, he got 14 goals or something?
Something like that, yeah. He's still averaging more than a goal a game. So
it's like, I kind of, because I just kind of, I've got him in my fantasy league team like everybody else, right?
Yeah.
If you don't, then you may as well just not even bother.
Yeah.
But just the fact that City haven't been as good. He's felt like he's not been as good. He's missing De Bruyne, who set up most of his goals, and he's still got 14 goals in 13 games.
I think it's because he's not, rather than scoring a hat trick in every single game, he's just scoring a goal every single game, which is still great. That's still really, really good. But it's because last year what he did was so just ridiculous, and I remember it was after the year that you remember Ronaldo scored like 50 odd goals in a season for United. I think it was the year you won the Champions League. When John Terry slipped, great times.
Inject it.
Yeah. Go down to a nicer bloke. But I think the following season, similar thing, Ronaldo was scoring goals, just not at the same rate that he was in the previous year. I think they asked Ferguson about it, and he was just like, well, he was like, I can't expect him to score the same amount of goals he did last year, because that's impossible. He's scoring goals, I'm happy, but we never once thought, oh yeah, you need to equal or go further than what he did last year. It's like sometimes players just have these types of seasons where they just go supernatural. And I think that's just what happened to Haaland last year. Now he's kind of it can't make him sound like he's again gone crap. He hasn't. He's just having a really, really good season.
He's still on target for 40 league goals this year.
Exactly. Yeah. So
what a scrub.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's definitely been a shout, but for me, I think Salah has just been unbelievable this year for Liverpool, and especially when you think of all the stuff in the summer with will he go, will he not go? Like I think he's been for me easily the player of the season so far.
Yeah, and there's a few others who are kind of like chipping. I think Son Heung-min looks back to his best.
Yeah.
Like he's scoring goals. He's scoring goals, creating chances. Watkins has been great for Villa. We're kind of just going through the goal scorers here a little bit. You said him before. Van Dijk was someone I was going to put
Van
out
Dijk,
there. He looks as good as he did when he kind of helped Liverpool win the title. Again, I've said it more often than like I've said it a few times. I think he's been not at his best for more time at his time at Liverpool than he has been at his best. But so he had a really good 6 to 12 months, and then he was off it for 2 years. Granted, like after he came back after a massive injury, I'm not slating the guy saying he's not trying, but I wondered whether he his time had his peak.
It was a bad injury.
It was
a really bad injury. Yeah,
but like to see him back and playing at the top of his game again, like fair play to him. And also throw Alisson in there as well because I just think he's outstanding. You could throw so many Man City players in there. And the thing is, right, I don't think there's been one standout player for them because it is usually Haaland or De Bruyne. Like they're all just really good. Like
it's annoying, isn't it?
It's one thing where like you've got a team of 6s and 7s, and then you want your 10, like Liverpool, like you want your 10 Salah to be to be pulling you through it and winning it. They've just got a team of 8s and 9s. I think they've just all been really good. Julian Alvarez, I think, has had a bit of a breakout season. He's
been
really,
great.
Really impressed me. And I'm just trying to think of like other players who've stepped up massively. Here's one who is pivotal to how good the team is. I think you take him out of the team and they perform way, way worse. Kieran Trippier at Newcastle.
Great.
The amount of chances he creates, how well he defends, the fact he's the captain and like he plays like it. I think he is. I don't think he's underrated because everyone has always really known that he's a fantastic player. But I think in terms of having someone who is just like he like puts the club on the team on his back in games, and he is a massive, massive reason as to why they do so well. I'll throw Trippier in there, but I think it's got to be a discussion between Haaland and Salah just because they score all the goals.
I feel like as well we probably should say, I think given what we said earlier about the transfer fee and stuff, I think Rice probably gets close within that conversation as well. Just how again impacts on the team, importance to the team.
Just pivotal to it,
Pivotal, but I think they say those two, Salah and Haaland, they're the guys, aren't they? Like,
and if you're looking for players who kind of you don't realize what you missed until they're gone, Rodri is just out of this world.
Yeah, he's really good.
They missed like he wasn't available for like 3 or 4 games. I was watching City going, they don't look that good. And Rodri comes back and he goes, "Oh man, you're great!" Like,
he's
the ultimate like you're missing when he's gone kind of thing. We had it at United for years with Michael Carrick, like just that person who's like that anchor. He's just there all the time. He's sweeping things up. He's he's not necessarily creating chances or scoring goals.
No,
but he's snuffing things out before they start. He's playing the pass before the goal. Like he's the one who's opening up spaces and all that kind of stuff. And he's just, I think, if you're not just going off kind of goal return, if you're going off impact on game and how good the team looks when they're in it and when they're not, I think he's up there for the best player in the league. As important as. I mean, for me, like as Casemiro was for United last year, like we looked like we were missing a leg when he wasn't in the pitch, and we look like we're missing a leg when he's on it this year.
It's funny how things change.
But I think we had a few good ideas there. We'll finish it off with our kind of predictions as things land right now. So I'll ask you, who do you think is going to finish in the top 4? Who do you think is going to get the rest of the European spots? Who do you think wins the title, and who do you think ends up going down?
All right, so I think I'll do for obvious reasons. I'll do top 4 and title in the same one. So I think the team that finished 4th, I think will be Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa will get 4th. It's a big if because obviously you've seen what injuries can do to a team and derail their season. If most of their players can stay fit, I back Villa to do it. Team finishes third, I think, is going to be. Oh God, I think it's going to be Arsenal. I think Arsenal are going to have a bit of a wobble, and I think they might. I can see them having injuries this season. But I think it also depends on how far they go in the Champions League as well. I think that could also affect them. I think this might come back and bite me in the arse. Fuck up, I'm going bold. I think City finish second. I think Liverpool win the league this year. Actually, and the reason being, I think if they sense that they've got an opportunity to actually go and do it, I think they'll throw Europe. I think they'll bin the Europa League off.
Europa, isn't it?
But I think that's what they'll think. I think, do you know what I mean? I think they'll have that because I think Arsenal kind of did it last year. Like I know they went out on penalty stuff. I don't think I never got the sense Arsenal were that bothered about the Europa League. Whereas they'll be bothered about the Champions League this year. I think if Liverpool sense an opportunity to go for the league this year, I think they'll put full attention on it. And again, it's big if on injuries and whatnot. But I don't know why City just don't seem as unbeatable as they did last year. And like maybe the game of the weekend sort of influenced my decision here. But I've just got a feeling Liverpool might do it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I can't really disagree with your top four. I think it's going to be. I think fourth place is going to be tight. I think it's going to be between Villa, Spurs, maybe Newcastle, United.
I think Newcastle will be there or thereabouts.
Yeah,
I think.
I can't envisage the rest of our season being as bad as the first third.
Yeah,
I think players coming back, things kind of evening themselves out. We're playing a little bit better. Players are finding a little bit of form. We can't be as bad for the rest of the hopefully we can't be as bad for the rest of the 23 games as we have been for the first 13 or so. Like it's got to turn around at some point, and if it does, I think we'll be there in a discussion. Even if it is like we sneak into the Champions League in the fifth spot. Like,
of course, fifth gets it. Yeah, sure, doesn't it? Yeah,
it could be something like that. But hopefully, it will be in the discussion. But yeah. In terms of the top three, I think Arsenal will struggle a little bit now that Liverpool are back to full fighting fitness. City will go on a 15-game winning run at some point.
That's the thing, yeah,
because that's just what they do. And I think I'm just gonna flip the top two. I think Liverpool finish second. I think it's going to be really a close fight, to be honest. Yeah, right to the end, like it has been for a few years. But I think City just have that thing of. We'll just win 15 in a row if we need to. They can do it, and Kevin De Bruyne is back in the new year. Like if he
I forgot about that.
Yeah, if he gets fit and gets as good as he is, if he performs to his top, then I think City will be. I think City will win the league, unfortunately, but it won't count anyway because they'll have it taken off them eventually. So.
There you go. I will say I am mainly saying Liverpool. I think out of just pure hope that someone else fucking wins it. Like,
yeah, to be honest, at this point now, even I'd take a Liverpool title.
yeah. There you go.
I'll go for the other European spots. Like I've kind of already alluded to it. I think 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th is going to be fought out between Villa, Spurs, United, and Newcastle. I don't think Chelsea will push on enough. No. I don't think they'll just get enough. They might finish 8th or 9th. I think as good as Brighton are, they've shown that they can be got at. I think people are not necessarily figuring them out, but I just think that they're just still, especially now they're in Europe as well. Yeah, I think they're just a step off. They've just not quite got the squad. They remind me a little bit of Leicester in Europe. When it's like, oh, we've got an extra how many games? We don't have the squad for that. No. So I wonder how they'll do. And it could be the same with Newcastle, to be honest. They could drop just because of the amount of games. They've got a really paper-thin squad. Like, they've got some really good players. But when Jamal Lascelles is still your third choice centre-back, it's still it's like, okay, we're very thin. So unless they...
Be interesting if they spend in January.
I could definitely see them whipping some money in January.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to.
Yeah, but in terms of the other teams, you could maybe see, like I say, you can maybe see Brighton sneaking in, maybe West Ham as well if things pick up. But the rest of it just seems a bit like mid-table fodder to me.
Yeah.
I don't see things changing that much from how the table is at the minute, which
at
the time right now is Arsenal, City, Liverpool, top 3, Villa, Spurs, United, the other 3, and then Newcastle and Brighton kind of sniffing around the edges. So
yeah, I say, whereas maybe it's like the actual table now is influenced by my decision, but it's Villa especially. I just feel like they've just got such a bit between their teeth at the moment. I just like, and they are generally just really good.
They're great. Yeah,
a manager who knows what they're doing. So
manager knows what he's doing. They're playing good football. Yeah. Players in form. Like,
I will say for fourth, I think it will be between them and Spurs.
Yeah,
I do. I think for fourth, it will be between them and Spurs. I don't trust United. So
neither do I, to be honest. Well, I've already talked about that. In terms of the relegation battle, I think we're both pretty much agreed. Like, I think Everton might be really unlucky with this, and it might drag them into a fight. But I think the three that came up go down.
Yeah, it's you know,
I think Luton will put in more of a fight than the other two.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they'll end up just not having enough.
Yeah, and I think there's a world where Bournemouth could get dragged into it. I think there's a world where Fulham and Forest could get dragged into it. There's a world where Palace maybe, but I think it's actually why you're not seeing many. It's an interesting point I got brought the other day. Actually, it's not. You haven't seen it. There's been no sackings. In the league so far, and we're in November, which is pretty much unheard of. Like, for modern day Premier League football, I think it's because a lot of the teams are looking around being like, "Oh, we're not going to go down this year. There's no point." Do you know what I mean? Like,
and I think a lot of the teams, when you look at it top to bottom, everyone's kind of where they expect to be. Like, everyone who's at the top is kind of at the top. Like, United have been the pits, but there's a lot of extenuating circumstances on that. The top three are the top three that I'd expect to be. Everyone kind of behind that's kind of like fallen in line. Like I said, the only team that's really surprised me has been Wolves, to be honest. Everyone else I kind of expected to be where they are. Spurs have been a bit better than I expected. I did think the Harry Kane leaving thing would impact them a bit more.
Yeah.
But I think it might even out, like, depending on how long, Maddison's out for, and how long
Van de Ven as well.
For. That could really affect them, because they're just, again, they're a team that's like outside of their starting 11, they haven't got a lot going on.
It's not a lot, no.
So yeah, interesting. We'll come back to this. We should do it like after 2/3 of the season.
Yeah,
definitely. And at the end of the season,
definitely.
And we'll see how our opinions have changed.
Yeah,
I've actually just pulled up my preseason predictions as well. We did it on my Discord. And like, it's not far off where we're at right now. I had Chelsea a little bit higher.
God.
I thought, like, with the deals that they'd done, they'd be a bit higher. But everyone's kind of where I expected them to be, other than Wolves, really.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my one. I think this. Oh yeah, this was it. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think
United second as well, which might have been a bit hopeful.
I had United. Yeah, I had United. I'd Liverpool. I'd see win the league. Liverpool second, Arsenal third. I had United in fourth. Newcastle fifth. I had Chelsea in sixth, which is a bit of a stinker. Fulham in 10th, which looks quite bad now. I had West Ham in 11th, and I had Wolves. I had Wolves going down. So I had Forest in 17th, and Bournemouth 16th. So they're not too far off.
Yeah.
So
I
had Burnley in 12th. Oh God,
that's gone wrong.
I had Burnley in 12th. Christ.
I don't think even Burnley fans believe that.
No.
I had City, United, Arsenal, Liverpool top four. Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa just behind. Then Brighton, Spurs, Brentford, Palace, Fulham, West Ham, Everton, Forest, Burnley, Bournemouth. Then Sheffield United, Wolves, and Luton to go down. So not a million miles away. Chelsea had letting me down, and Wolves proved me wrong. So fair play to them.
Fair play. Shouts as a party.
Yeah, as a party. I think that'll be it. We're nearly 2 hours. It's a bumper episode, seeing as we missed the one in the international break. But I think we've covered everything that needs covering and discussed the happenings of the weekend. I've just realised that your camera's not centered as well, which is great. 2 hours in, I should probably look at OBS every now and again. But as always, guys,
for the audio listeners, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. No, I'll just pan you to the left.
Yeah. I move around a lot as well, which it's not going to make your life any easier. So I can apologise. I'm a fidgety boy.
Well, like I say, bumper episode wrapped up. We will be back next week. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. No matter where you've listened to this from, whether it be audio listeners or video watchers or clip watchers or however you ingest us. Cheers for tuning in. We'll be back. As always, you can catch us at the United Frontcast on pretty much every social media platform. And we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.
Take it easy.